Okay, welcome back. God laughs at dirty jokes. Pardon my fist thingy, my little bruise. Uh, we're in the middle of chapter 10 and going to go through probably chapter 11, most of it or all of it today, and that'll be that. So, without further ado, we shall resume from the little tag section at the end of chapter 10. Still in high school here, or junior high, maybe. High school. Okay. During summer vacation, I'd get out of work from Wilson Farms convenience store around midnight and rush home to watch David Letterman at 12:30. It felt like a secret, with a fabulous cast of fun weirdos like Chris Elliott hiding under the stairs and creepily stalking Dave. I might do some writing or reading at the same time by the boob tube's blue light. At 2 or 3 a.m., I often sat on the porch with a candle, softly playing guitar and whisper singing, contemplating big ideas about the world. I'd climb the tree in the front yard or walk to the curb and stare up at the sky full of stars in total amazement, like Huck Finn. We lived on a dead-end street, so it was very quiet at night in the suburbs. I was a stargazer, dreamer, and cosmic kid. I love impractical dreamers, and I hope you're one too. I hope you have big ideas that you never give up on if you love them. Naysayers will always abound, but usually they're jealous of the permission you've given yourself to think big. They wish they could be you, or failing that, they'd like to drag you to earth and make you common, which is so dull and predictable. Sometimes I'd stay up at night, and Mom would find me in the living room at 5:30 or 6 a.m. when she got up for work. "Go to bed," she'd yell. I didn't understand why she was so angry. In retrospect, it's because the early morning was her time in the house. The only moments to enjoy complete silence and peace and a quiet cup of coffee before the world would come at her again. She says she doesn't remember getting mad at me, but I remember well. I later learned we weren't living on a lot of money, but neither were we poor. Mom's part-time office job didn't bring in much, but our father paid child support to his credit. We never felt at a loss for anything and weren't materialistic. Once I got into wearing vintage and half-shredded clothes, I rarely bought new things anyway. This is still true. Yeah, it definitely is true today. I took pride in wearing non-brand name clothes. I bought a pair of bright yellow fake Chuck Taylors in high school with no symbol in the white circle on the side. I drew in a Mr. Yuck face with the tongue sticking out and the words "labels suck," all capitals. I wrote the lyrics to a Morrissey song called Michael's Bones down the pant legs of one of my half-shredded pairs of jeans, folded and safety pinned at the ankles. Oh, 80s. The physical possessions that meant the most to me were all related to music. My vinyl records and cassettes, guitars, stereo, and Walkman. My mom is loving, generous, and feisty, though she was virtually ignored growing up. She was the last of 5 girls to be born. Her father's final failed chance at a son. Mom says she never felt like she had a single ally in her family growing up, and even as an adult, especially when Justin died. Yet she always knew that she would be okay and survive. She vowed to give her children everything she wasn't given. She spoiled us. Though Mom is well adjusted, she has an Italian hot streak. There are definitely cultural differences. It's probably why I identify more with hot-blooded Latin and African cultures than tight Euro wasps. I like people who feel life deeply and bring a depth of emotion to their art, music, and relationships. Give me spicy funk, jazz, tango, bossa, hip-hop, and blues. Mom said she didn't even feel like she became a real person until she turned 30. She was only 18 when she got married in 1965, a whole different era and sensibility. Many women from her generation, especially those who married young, felt like this. Young ladies barely removed from adolescence who suddenly found themselves with a home and family to take care of before they even knew who they were or had time to contemplate it. Maybe this is why my grandfather failed Mom growing up. It's probably also why some women who marry young suddenly wake up in their late 20s or 30s and go buck wild. I've dated a few. I inherited my mom's fire, or partly I learned it. When she was mad at me or Steve, she was explosively verbal. My self-esteem would dive. Most of our conflicts came during my pubescent years. We had an average amount of yelling at our house. At some point during high school, I told Mom her attacks were harming my self-image. She was surprised and toned it down after that. My brother had the same experience. Mom says now that she always saw life as war, and that she felt like she spent her entire adolescence and adulthood fighting her way out of a paper bag. I get it. I felt this way most of my life too, though I'm changing for the better. I don't fixate upon the bumps in our relationship. I remember it mostly as loving and open, and it's grown stronger with time. Yes, sir. All right, coffee time. All right, so I got my travel mug. Now, the reason I have my travel mug is because I took my snowblower to the repair shop this morning. It needs a new pull cord, and the throttle drive needs an adjustment. So, anyway, I took my travel mug there, and I figured I'd keep using it. Aren't you glad you know? Hey, speaking of this guitar, I might do an impromptu live performance online later, but I might not. So if you are milling around Facebook this evening, you might see me, but you might not. And of course, if you don't watch this the evening it came out, then you should ignore this entirely, because that's how time works. Okay, smartass. So chapter 11 is called Rejection and Reinvention. Okay. Our childhood and adolescence is deeply ingrained into who we become. Certain key events in youth make deep impressions, burning life lessons in subconscious loops onto the hard drive of the brain. Compelling some of us to repeat painful behaviors over and over again until we learn our lesson or never learn. Part of fixing yourself, if necessary, comes from recognizing the patterns of your life and altering your mindset. Sometimes the passing of time is a natural agent of change. You grow out of an earlier unhappiness. Other people try combinations of introspection, therapy, drugs, writing, prayer, etc. I'm in favor of whatever works. My life changed at 13 during an early fall walk around the quiet streets of North Tonawanda, New York. 2 grade school friends were transforming into middle school jocks. Though Alex and I had been friends and played together for years, everything from street sports to drawing comics, things were changing fast. He and John had formed a new exclusive club I wasn't yet aware of. These are pseudonyms, by the way. I don't remember the words, but I became aware they were mocking me and that I was no longer considered an equal. Some conscious or unconscious calculations had occurred in their soft young skulls over the summer. I hadn't had the same growth spurt and was apparently fair game for ridicule or to be their lackey. I came home confused and crushed. It wasn't a great time anyway. I was rail thin and had bad back acne during middle and high school because I'm an Italian testosterone machine, and there's an obvious upside, which added to my self-consciousness. Mom let me buy a small sun lamp to burn the buggers a few minutes each evening. She knew something was wrong the moment I walked in the front door with my head low. Thinking of it now, I imagine this scene repeated in the homes of awkward 13-year-olds and their parents all over the world, every day and every year, in every generation, backwards through all time and forward into the infinite future. Maybe kids don't even need to leave the house anymore for the full humiliation. Antagonists and bullies have computers too, and I'm sure the Facebook wars between teens are unreal. It's not getting easier to be young, is it? Thank God she was there to hear me and provide comfort, assurance, and a big hug, and do what mothers do best. What would I have done otherwise? I'd be a different person now entirely, and I've encountered many people who obviously did not have the same support. It hurt a lot, but fortunately I didn't need approval badly enough to accept humiliation in exchange for being allowed to hang around. I sat in my corner listening to the radio after I got home. Excuse me. Like many young people at the same stage of adolescence, I heard a song that changed my life. It was when music really began to speak to me. CFNY 102.1, the spirit of radio, an independently owned alternative rock station in Toronto, was an amazing source for new music in the 1980s and early 1990s, and a big influence on the Buffalo alternative music scene. An unusual British band called Prefab Sprout came on. As often, I was running a cassette to capture and collect songs of interest. Now, Prefab Sprout story. Here's a synchronicity for you. When I opened Facebook this morning, who but the drummer of Prefab Sprout, Neil Conti, it's his birthday today. I think he's 62. So I wished him a happy birthday in the little online forum. I don't know if you saw it or not, like a fan thing for Prefab Sprout. So there's your ding ding in real time. Prefab Sprout, that's the name of the band. The band name probably sunk the band because it's It's so you can't get your head around it. It's a little too weird for America or something. So the song that came on the radio was When Love Breaks Down. When Love Breaks Down floored me. The lines that stood out most felt parallel to the immediate loss of my friendships. When love breaks down, the things you do to stop the truth from hurting you. It's on a record called Two Wheels Good, which I've listened to possibly thousands of times the last 30 years. Prefab Sprout were a top 10 band in Britain, but never broke through in America. They were probably a little too literate, intelligent, jazzy, and melodic. Not enough cock in their rock and roll. The DJs on CFNY had the power to introduce new music outside of the mainstream. While Madonna, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, and Bruce Springsteen were dominating American radio, CFNY was feeding outsider kids, like me, The Smiths, New Order, The Style Council, Aztec Camera, The Go-Betweens, Chalk Circle, The Pursuit of Happiness, General Public, The English Beat, The Adventures, Shriekback, Susie and the Banshees, XTC, World Party, The Wooden Tops, The Lilac Time, The Blue Nile, Stone Roses, The Cure, The Cult, REM, Delamitri, They Might Be Giants, Robin Hitchcock, Lloyd Cole, Michael Penn, Dead Meltman, The Sundays, Love and Rockets, Peter Murphy and Bauhaus, Camper Van Beethoven, Scritti Politti, Dream Academy, Talk Talk, Fairground Attraction, Idle Eyes, Thomas Dolby, Guadalcanal Diary, Trash Can Sinatras, just listened to them last night, Public Image Limited, Echo and the Bunnymen, The House Martins, The Beautiful South, ABC, The Pixies, OMD, Psychedelic Verse, Smithereens, Gene Loves Jezebel, Sugar Cubes, Sisters of Mercy, The Mission, Hunters and Collectors, The Alarm, Fergal Sharkey, Pierce Turner, Danny Wilson, Swing Out Sister, Zig Zig Sputnik, Generation X, Midnight Oil, Kirsty McCall, Frank, your basic average all-American Jewish lesbian folk singer. That's what she called herself, Frank, P-H-R-A-N-C. Sun 60, The Lightning Seeds, Furniture, James, Jim Jiminy, When in Rome, Pop Will Eat Itself, Bronsky Beat, Erasure, Captain Sensible, Kissing the Pink, Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine, Men Without Hats, The Church, Yellow, Billy Bragg, Big Audio Dynamite, Nick Kershaw, China Crisis, Suzanne Vega, Double, Cocteau Twins, Yaz, Depeche Mode, Moev, Haircut 100, Killing Joke, The Proclaimers, The Primitives, Secession, The Damned, The Jazz Butcher, In Excess, Mood 6, Tall New Buildings, Split Ends, Royal Crescent Mob, Dead or Alive, Gowan, Flesh for Lulu, David Sylvian, Brian Ferry, APB, Howard Jones, Tears for Fears, Pet Shop Boys, Joan Armatrading, Images in Vogue, The Wedding Present, Platinum Blonde, Ryuichi Sakamoto, Circus Circus Circus, Alphaville, The Waitresses, The Wonder Stuff, and Kate Bush. Whew. Plus hundreds more quirky British, Canadian, and American bands of major and minor fame. The programming was innovative and driven by people who loved music. Sadly, CFNY has long been bought out and homogenized as a rock chain station programmed from a central office located God knows where. The love is gone. The corporatization. Corporatization drives me nuts. Actually, I have a new song that isn't released yet. It's called Feed and Bleed. And the tagline is, mostly now we need you to bleed. Sacrifice yourself and all. Sacrifice yourself in full. Bleed. Feed the corporatocracy. Yep, that's how I feel. Okay, and here's a part in parentheses. When President Bill Clinton signed the 1996 Telecommunications Act, changing radio ownership laws, huge American corporations swallowed formerly independent stations just as they swallowed newspapers. Radio changed overnight, not for the better, and has been on a steady decline since. It's part of the overall consolidation and corporatization of all formerly rebellious American cultural institutions that began in earnest with the election of Ronald Reagan and continues cynically to this day. Rock and roll is no different than Wall Street anymore. That's still true. Because as you know, because I mentioned it every video, I wrote this book. I finished this book in 2014. Actually, I started it in like 2011, but finished it in 2014. Anyway, okay. The general public seems to have little idea why radio sucks now, but many are bored, turning to talk and sports stations to alleviate the repetition, including me. Hopefully the whole radio paradigm will collapse and we'll get back to locally owned and programmed stations someday. Hell, I want to own and program my own station. In theory, the public owns the airways, but we've temporarily abdicated our claim. So that's all in parentheses. Back to When Love Breaks Down, the song. When Love Breaks Down spoke directly to me, or that's how it always feels when a young person is deeply moved by music. You feel the song was written specifically for your situation. A bond is cemented for life. The song and many others on CFNY and local college radio inspired a defiant reinvention of self, fueling a lifelong musical journey that freed my soul. I wish I could meet Patty McAllen, Prefab Sprout's reclusive songwriting guru, and give him a big hug. Man, I wish I could. He's in County Durham, England. Somewhere in County Durham, England. I experimented with my appearance. My Aunt Rosie was a hairdresser. In 8th grade, she, Mom, and I somehow came up with the idea of dyeing the front of my brown curly hair blonde. We thought it would be fun and odd, and it was. I had a gold skunk tuft on my head when I went back to junior high that Monday in black parachute pants and a funky no-sleeve geometric shirt, possibly purchased from Chess King, that my mom thought was radical yet tasteful. Okay, we mixed genres a bit and didn't quite get it right. I wasn't prepared for the amount of attention. Teens and adults dye their hair every color now, but in my day, old man voice, in 1984, at Resl Junior Middle School in suburban North Tonawanda, New York, population 35,000, and home of the Carousel Museum, Riviera Theater, and the mighty Wurlitzer organ, this was not done. There was every reaction you can imagine. Stares with no comment, giggles from packs of girls, threatening looks and commentary from meatheads, and kids who thought I was a completely new student. I guess I had been invisible before. Everybody seemed to be trying to figure out what I was supposed to be and take sides as to whether that was okay and allowed. Between the rear entrance doors, a girl asked me why I did it. I think I said, I don't know, I felt like it. I got some votes to support, not that I was consciously looking for them, though I probably was actually. A student teacher in math who used to treat me as a star pupil instead gave me an uncomfortable, skeptical look handing back my paper. I probably did look ridiculous. It wasn't a subtle thing on a skinny kid and too much weird attention for an insecure 13-year-old. The test had gone awry. I didn't understand how shitty some kids can be. I thought most were as open and fun-loving as my family. Within a few days, my mom helped me make the gold tuft more subtle by dyeing some of the hair around it back to my original color. I liked it better, too, but it was one of my last concessions to other people's opinions. Later that same year, I pierced my ears. I started with the left one, then went up a couple more holes, and later did the right. Again, today, this is not a big deal, and young folks stretch their lobes to extreme proportions and cover every available space with tattoos. I have 2. But in 1985, you were apparently planning to subvert the entire social order or bomb the school by getting a gold stud earring. Oh my gosh. Okay, my favorite incident involved a tall, skinny, wannabe tough guy with short feathered hair and a perpetually popped collar, douchebag chic, whose locker was next to mine. In between classes while grabbing books, he made a crack about my earring and called me a faggot. Or maybe he asked me if I was some kind of faggot. Faggot was the focus of the exchange, the word echoing all the way down the corridors of my mind. I didn't react, said nothing, closed my locker door, and left. 1 or 2 years later, he and every guy on the football team got earrings together. Did they hold each other's hands and giggle like schoolgirls while they did it? Did he even have a remote recollection of what he'd said to me when he got his own earring? Or did he push it to the back of his dim, dull brain with all the other temporary identities he sleepwalked through with his friends? The other major musical influence on me was another British band, the Smiths, the perfect group at the perfect time. I felt like they saved my life. My skinny bones understood the uncertain sexuality and oversensitivity of lead singer Morrissey, the lack of connection to the body and an accompanying fear of women, men, sex, and intimacy, the longing for an acceptable means of expressing affection for other people without being marginalized as effeminate. The Smiths soared in the underground because they celebrated awkwardness and vulnerability, turning it into a rallying cry, somehow transforming weakness and alienation into strength. There was a love of absurdity and an obvious intelligence and literacy to Morrissey's lyrics that was uncommon then and now. They are correctly regarded as a monumentally important post-punk band. Their legacy has been significantly entrenched in the counterculture to the extent that even those who regarded them as a band for fags 30 years ago now heap praise and claim kinship. As with many radical important artists, they are only regarded as geniuses at a distance now that they're no longer together and threatening in real time. It's much easier to get on board once everybody else has already done it, isn't it? Where were you when it was going down? Okay, how many pages I got left? Okay, I'm going to try to make it through. I'm trying to keep to 20 minutes, but it's not working. Okay, so talking about the lead singer of the Smiths, Morrissey. Morrissey's insecurities were refocused as hostility to mindless conformity, combined with the perhaps contradictory yearning to be loved and broadly accepted. In an interview, he said, "I'd rather be remembered as a big-mouthed failure than an effete little wimp. I signed on for that." He helped transform my thinking and attitude. Morrissey was willing to take the enormous, relentless ridicule of the accepted, and almost worse, their whipping boys, what Alex and John probably had in mind for me, who would never be invited to the big party, but still felt compelled to defend their socially superior slave masters. In high school, I probably would have committed murder if instructed by my hero. Not literally, but I needed his philosophical musings like air. It was a religious devotion, and the feeling of loyalty remains even though I'm sometimes put off by his persistent narcissism. Maybe I feel he needs to grow up a little, or I do, but he's earned the freedom to be whatever he wants. I would love to survive as a full-time artist, too. I'm working on it. The Smiths released a persistent stream of material from 1983 until their end in 1987 in the form of multi-song 12-inch vinyl singles, full-length studio albums, and compilations of radio show appearances and alternative song versions. In just 4 years, they recorded constantly, knocking out more than 70 songs, and the breakup led into a Morrissey solo career, which continues to this day. There are two Morrissey lyrics that matched up with my life at the time. A line in the song, "I Know Very Well How I Got My Name," mirrored my hair dyeing experiment and matched my age too. When 13 years old, who dyed his hair gold? In quotes. I was, in fact, 16 years old when the song Half a Person was released as a B-side to Shoplifters of the World Unite, and the lyrics to that were, 16, clumsy and shy, I went to London, and I booked myself into the YWCA. In my high school yearbook, I proudly declared, "I love you, Mom, Dad, Steve, and Morrissey." I quoted the song Unlovable next to my photo. If I seem a little strange, well, that's because I am. In reality, it was everyone else I regarded as strange, even though I was excessively judgmental. I saw them as inadequate in their limited dreams and aspirations, blind acceptance of and deference to authority, lack of spine, lack of fun and lust for life, rigidity, conformity, monotonous small talk, lamenting their lives while making no effort to change, resolve to ordinary drudgery even as teenagers, mindless desire to marry and procreate, white picket fences, unwillingness to look foolish or self-deprecate, lack of creativity, superficiality, aspirations to immediately sell out and cash in, adherence to social conventions and groupthink dynamics, intentionally dumbing themselves down, lack of courage, lack of love for truth, lack of love for love, and overall dullness. I found it incomprehensible, as if I was living in a separate, more vital world from my classmates. I found meaning in everything, though I was overly expressive and dramatic, especially for a straight young man. But the world was pulsating and alive, like Van Gogh's Starry Night, and all the time if you chose to see it. Why couldn't they see it? Why wouldn't they? To this day, I can tell you when and where I purchased nearly every Smiths UK import record, and who was with me. My friend Rob Linville, the first and perhaps only real punk rocker I've ever met, was so amused by my devotion and enthusiasm that he bought a few Smiths singles for me just to watch me literally laugh out loud while hearing them on a turntable for the first time. God bless you, Rob. Which would in turn make him laugh his funny monkey cackle and point at me yelling, "Felge!" My laughter was involuntary. I'd find myself so immediately deeply moved by the songs that the abundance of feeling overflowed and spilled out as laughter. It was the joy of recognition, of being united in my strangeness with this unconventional, intelligent artist, and the happy realization that the first listens would just be the beginning of the experience as I played the records over and over again for months, days, months, and years, and rolled the lyrical, philosophical notions into my emboldened self. When my best friend Tim, God bless you too, Tim, miss you, buddy, he's in San Francisco. When my best friend Tim skipped school to visit Pop Tone's record shop in Niagara Falls, Ontario, to buy the Morrissey single Interesting Drug, he did me the kindness of stopping home to put it on a cassette tape so I could listen to it on my Walkman during art class and lunch. Like Linwood, he wanted to make me happy. I was blissed out. I sat with my friends in the cafeteria, but I wasn't really there. I was floating high on sound, already dreaming of an incredible future, musical future, outside the narrow halls of NTHS. Here's an aside about Tim. For my 43rd birthday this year, when this was written, on February 24, my mom bought me 2 helium balloons. She dropped by the house while I was at work and tied them to chairs in the living and dining room so I'd have a laugh when I got home. The one in the living room died within a week, but the other persisted. It says, "You're how old?" with lit cartoon candles. I decided to leave it up until it dropped. Months passed and the balloon remained fully inflated. I thought it might fall on my brother Justin's birthday on June 26, but it didn't. So that's February 24 to June 26. Then on July 18, nearly 5 months after it was tied, it started to droop on Tim's birthday, staying at half-mast, but not reaching the floor until the next morning. This works equally well as I think of Tim like a brother. We've made the effort to keep our friendship strong since high school, even though he's lived in Oakland many years. Maybe in some other life we were blood brothers and part of a larger group, which includes my immediate family who chose to come here together. I'm beginning to wonder if our arrival was orchestrated. Thank you. Almost done. The rejection remains a part of me for better and worse, though I'm nearly reconciled. Being an outsider kickstarted and accelerated my development, made me hungry to become someone, if only in my own eyes, in spite of what anyone might say or think. I decided to fight my way through high school and life, and would verbally savage anyone who sought an advantage at the expense of someone who was kind or who they perceived as weak, including myself. A lyric by another British artist called Momus became my mantra. The words, this is in quotes, the words were to cut down and to kill the muscle bound. The swords to fell my intellectual enemies. I love that. That lyric's amazing. I mean, it's intense, but it's so cool. The words were to cut down and to kill the muscle bound. The swords to fell my intellectual enemies. In a sense, they helped make me, and I'm grateful now. The words, I mean. I discovered that if you fought back, it helped prevent you from becoming a victim, though I usually knew when it might be time to run. You can only mouth off so much for so long. Some people are too dangerous to mess with. I probably learned how to fight from my mom, who felt alienated her entire childhood as one of the only Italian girls in an Irish Buffalo neighborhood, and with no allies in her family. She could conjure a storm when enraged. I was kind to outsiders, or anyone friendly or marginalized, and mirrored what I found in others. I feared no one's opinion, answered to no one but myself and my family, and considered my friendship a privilege. It was an act of total self-respect. I openly mocked the beautiful and popular when they displayed predictable conceit. I detested group behaviors and conformity, and lashed out at mindless conventions. I was on a mission. There's still fire in my heart. Hopefully I've become more empathetic and understanding. I think I have. There's always work to do. I work to see things and people from more angles to better comprehend and accept human complexity. I feel intensely and want to become more loving as I deepen. I'm happy and proud of who I've become. No one can take it from me. I wish the same for you. Curiously, my rebellion and identity makeover in high school inadvertently made me semi-popular. By rejecting and lampooning the popular, I made them curious to know why I didn't need them. I said what I really thought and felt, whether it was socially or politically advantageous to me or not, or got me into trouble, which it did. I made enemies of idiots and didn't care, which inevitably led to accusations of arrogance. The trade-off was acceptable in order to maintain self-respect. Some popular girls began to take an interest in me, and some were nice. Others approached out of curiosity, but would retreat if their friends told them I was unacceptable or weird. Some bitches do this to each other to control the pack. I saw it in high school and still in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. The games don't change much. By senior year, I felt less hostile. I began to see them as unformed works in progress and tried not to judge others based on social affiliations, only on whether they were nice and seemed to have a conscience. I see most of what I need to know when I look into someone's eyes upon first meeting. Openness to life is hard to fake. I love finding it. Conversely, I recognize the look of confused fear or uncertainty instantly, even in my own eyes from time to time. So there you have it. That's chapter 11, which was called Ambitious Outsiders. So next time, chapter 11 was called Rejection and Reinvention. The next chapter, chapter 12, is called Ambitious Outsiders, so that's where we'll pick it up. Next time on page 69. Ha ha ha. That's backwards, but... so thanks for tuning in, and maybe I'll see you later online with my guild here. Or maybe I won't. Maybe you won't, or we both won't, or maybe we will. Okay, have a great weekend. Bye.